And welcome, Yumlings.
Ooh, hello, Rachel, and welcome, Yumlings. That's you out there, the people who are listening, because you're quite yum in your lings out there. But Rachel, how are you actually doing on this fine day?
I'm doing pretty yum.
You're doing pretty yum.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I better match your energy then. I better match your YYE. I am also doing yum, Rachel. Why are we both feeling that way?
Because I think we're both excited to talk about an episode of Killjoys.
It's been 10 years since it initially aired, and so we thought best to give it a look through. I've seen the show before. Rachel, have you seen the show before?
No.
This is your first time round.
Uh-huh.
And so you're coming at it fresh, and I'm coming at it as someone who's only watched it once before. So some of this is still coming to me with a freshness because I had forgotten some of these elements. But some of them I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing here. Oh, I remember this distinctly. But why are we called Yum? What's with all of this yum talk at the beginning for people who have just tuned in? Maybe they haven't listened to our previous discussions.
A major part of our previous discussions was Star Trek Discovery. And that is where Yum originates for us. It was uttered by an individual who does not deserve the title of character in the season 2 finale. She was offered the opportunity to go kill one of the antagonists.
There were several.
I
understand why you're confused because
I got to keep my
one
plurals
antagonist.
right.
This was a case where one antagonist was taken over physically by another antagonist. So technically, they were the antagonists.
It's hard.
They were hybrid.
It's hard to divide sometimes.
Sci-fi. Am I right, guys? It's a crazy genre. It's a crazy genre.
Yes, but her reply to that opportunity, which, side note, was offered by an Oscar award-winning actress.
Michelle Yeoh. Fun fact. She won an Oscar as soon as she stopped doing Star Trek Discovery. Coincidence? I don't think so.
And currently, that is the last time that the same movie won Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress.
Oh, there you go. Another fun fact.
I learned that trivia this week.
Another fun fact.
And so that happened. Ryan decided we've got a podcast about Discovery. We made it a rewatch podcast, and you were like, it has to be named Yum.
And we watch through episodes of science fiction television, whether we're first-timers or revisiting it, or one of us has seen it, one of us haven't, and that's the case with Killjoys. And today, we are talking about episode 6 of season 1, which is called One Blood. Very interesting title, especially once you've gone through the episode. There's quite a lot of meaning in that title. And I have the summary here. We are not going off of any from the DVDs or Blu-rays or IMDb. We're just making our own. And I have a quick, simple summary, which is one of the most well-known Killjoys is up for warrant himself. Meanwhile, Dutch must go against everything she knows to work with her former mentor, whilst also going after a former mentor. Also, Fancy Lee's back. That's my summary.
There were way too many conjunctions in that. I'm sorry.
That was my summary. Was my summary.
I've got to offer my teacher feedback.
You are always heckling my summaries, and I never get the chance to heckle yours unless you pronounce a character's name wrong, which is often Devon for you. Oh yeah, Davin was in the episode too. He did things.
You fell for it too.
Davin, I said Davin. He did things.
You didn't say Davin first.
You said that you said Devon. That's what I said. Play it back, everyone. Play the tape. You'll hear what I said.
Maybe I'm just not paying enough attention to what you're saying.
Well, Rachel, you're the master of the domain here. So, who was the writer of this episode and who was the director? Could you tell us a bit about both?
I could tell you that they're both people. Michael Nankin directed this episode, and Anne Marie Marias wrote it. You declared these two people super interesting, and then I looked and went, "Oh yeah, they've done stuff."
Well, they are interesting. Why are you so dismissive?
Because
this
I was
was
like, I didn't think it was that unusual.
Super
like, a bunch of the
interesting.
directors have come from Battlestar, so that doesn't feel...
Have we? They've come from Stargate. I don't think we've had any from...
I confuse the two.
The director of this episode has only does this episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's something to note. He doesn't do other episodes.
No, but he mostly
Killjoys.
does one or two offs.
Yes.
He doesn't tend to stick around on projects. He really does give the director for hire.
But he's more than just that. So he's a writer and a producer and a director.
He
and
does other work.
He's been around for quite a while, and he's been involved with a lot of genre pieces. So
I was noticing a lot of westerns.
He wrote The Gate, which is a 1980s fantasy children's film that many people love. Quite an interesting piece of work. He is a producer on multiple things. Defiance, which was another Sci-Fi Channel show, I'm pretty sure. One that I haven't seen, but I know lots of people have and enjoy. He wrote, directed, and produced for a lot of Sean Cassidy work. And Sean Cassidy is someone that I find very interesting as well, because he was the man behind several shows that got cancelled, but all of them very interesting shows. American Gothic being one in particular that I love and adore, and perhaps one day we could cover on the podcast. It's always been on the list of like, that would be a fun one to cover on the podcast. But this director worked with him a lot with stuff like Raw, which was a show that featured a very young Heath Ledger. Invasion, a very interesting show that got cancelled because of the nature of its subject matter and the nature of what was happening in real life with cyclones and tornadoes and all of that stuff happening, natural disasters. It was a show dealing with that. And then, well, it was in the early 2000s, so that happened in America. And so it didn't get to live on. But I find this director interesting because he has his fingers in multiple different pies when it comes to genre work. You said it, there's a lot of westerns in his background, which I think shows most evidently in this episode of Killjoys, where there's not direct homages to the western genre, but there is aesthetic choices here that definitely hit towards that, and I thought helped elevate the episode in some ways as well.
And that matches the plot of this episode fairly well, so it does help elevate certain things and change the tone of the episode through the visuals that are being used.
And the writer, she's someone that's important to note down because she's been in the show before. This is more than just her one credit on the series.
It's a shift in what she does for Killjoys, because she was one of the story editors, and she's now the credited writer for this episode, and then she disappears.
This is the last time she works on Killjoys, or at least credited on IMDb. I find that intriguing because one of the things that leapt out about this episode was a real sense of continuity, whether it be the narrative continuity, the continuity of characters, the continuity of world building, themes, tones, messages. And I want to know why she didn't continue on, because this episode's super strong with that. And I wonder if it's because she was editing the previous scripts, and then when she got the opportunity to write her own, she wanted to bring certain things in that haven't been able to be brought in until her chance to do it.
Your brother, you got a thing going with Dutch yet?
It's none of my business.
It will be. Less than 5% of Killjoy teams are trios. 80% of those trios fail because somebody's screwing somebody else.
Has it ever occurred to you that if you were even slightly less of a dick, people might actually want to work with you?
Can't do that.
Because?
Every organization needs a designated asshole.
What was a moment that stood out for us, that made us smile, that made us laugh? Because Killjoys is a rather humorous show, and we like to look at what was the yum moment in that way, the moment that made you crack a smile and laugh, because yum in Star Trek Discovery was also supposed to be a funny line.
Oh, sorry, got a note. No nut shots. No nut shots in this episode. We've got to do that at the top.
No one got kicked in the genitals this episode?
Mm-mm.
I forgot to note it down, so thank goodness that you're on top of it. But what did give you a yum laugh, Rachel?
There were a lot of like chuckle lines, but not all that stands out. I think I'm gonna give it to. I'm pretty sure it was Johnny who said, "Time to be the dedicated arsehole." Designated arsehole.
That was Fancy. Oh, well, Fancy is...
Fancy inspired it, and then Johnny is just like, okay, I'm going to go talk to Dutch and be like,
at the end,
I'm
yes.
going to be the designated arsehole here. I'm going to step up to the plate and be the arse.
Fancy inspires so much within this episode. He was my yum laugh moment. But again, it was in response to him or adjacent to him. It was when it was a whole cavalcade of things where he comes on to Lucy and he's just being an ultra prick. And we're just laughing at the fact like, oh, he's such a arrogant prick. And then without skipping a beat,
Johnny's line?
He's like, oh, by the way, I need Dutch's underwear perhaps to scan through to track her. And then they're like, oh, and he's a pervert too. And I just laughed at that. They were so angry at him being a prick, and then within a heartbeat, they're also now annoyed that he's a pervert. And the actor who plays Fancy Lee carries it off with a certain stoicism made it even funnier, because the other two, Johnny and Davin, are getting super flustered, super annoyed, and then you just have Fancy Lee, composure, not at all cracked. He doesn't give a shit.
I had another Johnny line written down from that scene, which is, "Get off my ship, Fancy. You're filling it with douchebag."
Classy stuff.
And then my favorite Dutch line of this episode was, "Can we get on with the torture? I'm not much for small talk."
That was a fun one. This episode was very fun. I liked it a lot. I think this is one of the most important episodes that we've seen thus far, because
it's bringing a lot of things together.
But for me, what's really important is it spends the time on the ensemble. There's a plot, there's the pushing of the overarching narrative stuff, but it does not waste all of it on that. It spends several moments on the ensemble, on the people we've met along the way, on people like Fancy Lee, on people like Hills, on people like Torin. There's just a certain lived-in quality to this episode. And as a fan of television, and as a fan of science fiction television, that's really important to me, of making your ensemble feel alive, giving them the moments, because as much as I love our three main characters, I know them. I understand what they're about, but what about the people that they talk to? What about the people that they interact with? Do I know them that well? And the answer thus far has been, yeah, I know them pretty well. But at the end of this episode, I know them very well. I know what they're about. I know what makes them tick.
I thought that it was good. And it surprised me, because it is the first episode that really steps away from our trio. Like, we have Dutch's plot, we have Johnny and Davin with Fancy, and then we have Porter. So, Ryan, we've kind of mentioned it already. No, we've straight up mentioned it. Let's dive into what this character development is for our side characters and what they get to do and what we understand about them more. And I think we've got to start with Fancy.
Yes. Fancy was in the first episode, and then we haven't seen him again. And we should also stress the importance of this episode's setup is about the rack. It's about bringing together all the different Killjoys and analyzing and critiquing and kind of having a bit more musing on what is different about our group of Killjoys. And to demonstrate that, we bring back Fancy Lee, who is a solo operator. He works alone. He is an outsider. He is not that liked by other Killjoys. And I want to get your opinions on him and how he was portrayed in this episode, and also what he was like the first episode, because at least to my eye, I feel like they've calibrated his character a little differently to what he was like when we first saw him as well.
I would agree with that. I feel like they were like, oh, well, we can't spend a whole episode with the guy from the first episode. That's just too much. So we need to adjust it and calibrate it for where we are now. And that itself is interesting to me, that the show and the characters have developed and evolved enough for that to be necessary, but also for the writer to be attuned enough to do that.
And the performer as well, because how would you describe what Fancy was like the first time you saw him and what he was like after this episode for yourself?
Because he's still an asshole. And he's still got this weird tech. And he's more arrogant in some ways now than he was in the pilot.
I think it's because he was goofier in the pilot. He was the bounty hunter that couldn't get a shot. He was arrogant in a way that was funny. In this episode, that arrogance, that ego, we are given more definition of why he's like that. So we feel more like he's a person rather than a fun character. In the first episode, we liked Fancy because his name's Fancy Lee, and he dresses up in colorful outfits and he shoots darts.
Fancy.
He looks fancy. He shoots darts, and then when they turn around, he gives them a little salute and leaves, and then we don't see him again. In this episode, I think they added a stoicism to him. That's what I think is a big difference, is he's a lot more stern in his delivery, in his writing, in his approach to the jobs. He's a lot more methodical. And in the first episode, he was a lot more jovial. I think that's where things are different.
It's just like he's locked in. He's a career killjoy.
And we get to spend time with other people. We get Pri in this episode. He has a conversation with Potter, and they chew each other out, and then they both connect. We get Hills, the company man, and we get to know why he is the way he is and what motivates him.
Like, I feel like I understand the whole 7 generations thing much better. Like, I seem to remember something being mentioned about, like, you know, Land on Leaf and all of that stuff. But now the idea of how they're using this intergenerational carrot to get people to do what they want, like the company is.
Why is it important to expand the scope out in this way and give these scenes and these beats to the side characters? We've often talked about how we love this type of stuff in shows, but what about it is important to us, and how does this episode manage to achieve that?
Well, it helps add depth to the characters, like our central trio, as well as to the world. And Killjoys has demonstrated that it's interested in making it feel like it is a part of this broader world and this complex political and socio-political situation in the quad. So developing these side characters and the ways that they interact with the world does those things.
And it makes it feel more complex. How does a bartender operate in this world in comparison to the doctor, in comparison to a killjoy, in comparison to a company officer, in comparison to isolationist farmers, and we can keep going, right? In comparison to a prisoner in jail. Like, how do these things operate with one another? How do they overlap? How do they oppose?
I forgot that everything on Westerly has an ugly aftertaste. You know what I remember? When the rack was just happy being our errand boys. Yeah, well, times change, Hills, whether we like it or not.
The series thus far has been very critical of our main characters. It has been very focused on them. But what's rather refreshing is this episode goes into being as critical and as laser-focused on our supporting players. We have our doctor, who I've enjoyed, as have you, but she has done things so far that are really reprehensible or very much need to be put into question. Her relationship with Davin, she's both having sex with him, but also being his physician, being his doctor, and trying to be his psychologist. All of that is completely screwed up power dynamics. And what does that say about her? But we haven't really had the moments to reflect on that. And this episode comes in and says, no,
and I like when
that's not right.
When she's challenged on that, she's just like, occupational hazard and great sex.
She just straight up admits it. And in a weird way, makes me like her character more, even though she's doing something I don't approve of, because it's like, okay, you've actually said the thing aloud. The show is aware, because if you keep continuing down this road and you don't comment on it, how much is the show aware that it's a bad thing, or how much is the show enjoying it unironically? So how about we talk about her fully and what she gets up to and how far she's willing to go for her patient slash
she
the good
drugs
sex.
a company man to try to get access to his phone, basically, to try and find the doctor that Davin is looking for, because he's trying to step away from it because he's not finding it useful. And she's like, but I can still be useful, because clearly she still wants to be sleeping with him.
As stated, Pri takes her aside and they have a conversation about the ethical ramifications of what she's doing and why is she doing it. Is it just because of good sex?
No, not entirely. At least she doesn't say that it is. She does seem to like being able to solve a problem. And this is a juicy, complex problem that she's got in front of her. And it's, packaged in an attractive man. And she can't say no. She can't say no.
They say that she has a thing for broken people, that she likes to try and fix them, that she gets off on these damaged, wounded people, and it turns her on. It's not just it turns her on in a philosophical way or in a professional way, but literally she is sexually attracted to this, and Davin is just a bounty of that. It's not even just that he's a hot, muscly guy. It's because he is a broken man. And it's gross. Like, it's really gross that that's what her deal is, but it makes it less, I don't know how to say it, but it makes it less unappealing because the show is commenting on it. It is challenging her. It is critiquing her. It is having other characters look at her with disgust. But also at the end of this episode, she gets fucking arrested because she's pursuing all of this stuff to help Davin. But really, and I get this from the performance, I think she's doing it because it's a thrill for her to do all of this stuff, to drug a company officer, to wave her her family's name in people's faces, even though we find out she has nothing to back any of it up with. Like, she's disgraced, she's exiled. It means jack shit.
She is reprehensible, and she knows that she is, and she's kind of delighting in it, but it also feels like she's like got some fucking trauma in her background that she is using to justify it as well. Because at no point do I question that she knows better. No point do I go, oh, she doesn't know. She knows, and she's choosing.
Yeah, is she choosing, or she just can't help herself?
Well, she's an addict.
There's an ecstasy that she takes in it. How much of that is in the script, and how much of that comes through in the performance?
Oh, I think it's mostly the performance, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's the way that the actress is conveying things. I think that there's a base level of it in the script, but I think the actress has found a really interesting way to play with that.
And did you relish in her usual approach to try and get things that she wants, which is to sweet talk them until she can drug them?
Yeah. It works a lot of the time.
Didn't work this time, did it?
No.
They're going to throw her in jail in, what was it, West Hole? I think they said they're going to throw her in like the deepest, darkest pit.
Yep.
And that's where we leave off with her. But
Bye-bye, Porter.
But
I don't think you go on.
Who was the person that she screwed over and then got screwed over by? Yes. Another character we haven't seen in a while. We saw him in episode 2 and then we haven't seen him again. He is back. Hills is the cop, the company man, older gentleman, world-weary, but also a stickler for the rules. Unless they irritate him personally, then he doesn't really give a shit about the rules.
He works the system for his own benefit.
And we get to know him more in this episode too.
Mm-hmm. We do. Yeah, we do get to know him a little bit better. The detail that sticks out to me the most is that his grandchildren are going to be the ones that get the land on Leaf. He can see the direct benefit of what he is doing and why he is not willing to fully compromise his position, because they're almost there. They're almost there.
The question is asked, how can you do this to your own people? How can you put on that uniform? How can you be a part of a tyrannical system against your own? And it's because he's doing it for his own family. That's what he believes in. He doesn't
They've created an us and them within the system.
But it also gives us insight into something that we've already kind of got a feeling of in the brief moments we've spent with him, which is he may be a company man, but he's not a company man, if you catch my drift. Like, it's not like he's a dogmatic believer of the company and he'll
do it for the company, but he's not for the company.
Yeah, like he is doing all of this stuff for his own wants, needs, and desires. He believes that if I do what the company wants of me, I'll get rewarded in the end, or my family will get what they need in the end, which kind of pairs nicely with like the isolationist farmers, where they believed that things worked in a certain way until the company changed the rules. Until the hierarchy changed the rules to screw them over. So we keep seeing that there is no reason to believe that the system will work for you just because the rules are the way the rules are, because they can change just like that.
Yeah. Because it feels like they went, oh shit. Like the company went, oh shit. They're not wanting to do what we want them to do anymore. What we need something.
Incentives.
And we need an incentive. So let's say this. And you do get the idea that they're never gonna follow through on that. And it's not just because this episode introduces a genetic bomb.
What I also appreciate about Hills in this episode is he's a human being. You see that he gets on with people. You can see that he's very personable, that he has these wants and needs for his family, but he can be at the bar and have a conversation with Pre, but he can have a conversation with the head of the rack, but it's never not separated from the fact he's in the uniform. He is the embodiment of the authority. But we see through the writing and his characterization that he personally separates those two things. Like he has like, I'm just a man like you. I'm just here doing what I got to do. But also, I am the company. And you have to listen to me. You have to do what I want when I say it. Or else I'll throw you in jail, or else I'll tear the rack apart.
We've got him dead to rights.
We both know what happens to Killjoys in a company jail. My people will not sign off on that.
And when my people hear a rack agent robbed our ships and exposed a blacklist weapon, they won't sign off on anything less.
And it's interesting that this episode solidifies that he has a sort of direct equivalent in the rack. Our boy comes back, the one that chewed out Dutch.
Yep, Turin.
Turin's back, and he has a history with Hills, and they don't go too much into it, but there's enough there that you get what you need from their interactions. And a lot of that is from the actors being in the room together and the way that they respond to each other.
There's a history, there's a friendship or a camaraderie there, but also the two characters are fundamentally opposed. Here's how I best describe it, just from what we see. You
might even say foes.
Yeah, well, they're friendly. But Turin, as we see in this episode, he has convictions, and he's someone
where Hills has none.
Yeah, he has none. Like, well, he does, but he's corrupt. He's a corrupt official. I like that Hills is just so lax because it kind of ties into, as we often see, there's so many of these fascists or so many of these people that enforce the totalitarian belief that don't even believe it themselves. They just help it because they're working an angle within it.
Sorry, I was really trying to figure out a way to do a third Hamilton reference.
I see. Your priorities are where they're at.
Yep. Entertaining myself, if nothing else. I want to talk about who's in the room when it happens. We meet a bunch of other Killjoys. We get the urban legend of level 6.
The Black Ops stuff. Yeah. I'm sure that won't come back. I'm sure that won't come back.
No.
I'm sure Black Warrants won't come back either. Level 5 Warrant came back at the end. Didn't work out so well.
No. I liked Fancy Lee's stats. He's like, less than 5% are trios.
And for what reason?
Because sex happens.
Because they get too personal, too close, and then they become sort of triangle.
And it already kind of is. And Johnny doesn't want that to happen even before Fancy. He was just like, oh, it makes things fall apart. He's Johnny's already asked his brother not to sleep with Dutch.
But they're already giving each other the goo-goo eyes. But in all fairness, Johnny is in a sort of relation. In all fairness, Davin is in a sort of relationship with somebody else. So there's that level of like, well, it's not going to happen soon because even Dutch is like, well, you're with the doc,
Would you say that it's a situationship?
Sure. I would say fuck buddies. But buddies is a wrong term, isn't it? They're not buddies.
They're not friends, and it's more complicated than that in terms of like what their relationship is and what each of them are getting out of it, and that's not clear. And Davin tries to set up boundaries, and Porter's like, nope.
Something that stood out to me about meeting the other Killjoys was the premise of the episode is, oh, everyone's going to be hunting after this one legendary Killjoy who's gone rogue, and now there's a warrant after him. And I assumed going into that we would see all of these Killjoys like rushing to the same point.
They're just in the bar.
They're always at the bar, but that's okay because they didn't find the location, okay? That's why our characters are cool, because they have connections to figure things out.
And reinforces that they are the best.
They are the best. And that Fancy Lee's even better.
Dutch said that she's the best Killjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Dutch is the best female Killjoy according to Delsayer.
Yep, and according to herself, she is the best one, period.
Yeah, of course. But what I was going to say was interesting was at the end, we see all the Killjoys in the room together, level 5 warrants come out, and it's only Fancy Lee that takes the shot. Because everyone cares, but what I think's cool...
But I think it's also, like, are they all level 5?
Oh, I think most of them have the ability to still shoot the person in the head, but here's the thing I was going to raise is we have only seen thus far that Fancy Lee is the only Killjoy to actively try and fuck over other Killjoys. Mm-hmm. It seems like there's a code of honor that's maybe an unspoken one in which, we'll go after all the same jobs, but we're not going to kill each other or hurt each other or actively harm each other. Maybe we'll screw each other over. And that was kind of
camaraderie, but Fancy rejects that and puts himself on the outside of that, and he has his reasons for it that he makes very clear. But it's also like, if you weren't able to deal with that, cope with that, find joy in that, you wouldn't keep doing it.
And even though you
would evolve beyond being the asshole, and it doesn't seem like
he is
Fancy will or is capable of that.
Or desires it. We see for the brief moments that the other Killjoys have different team dynamics, have different attitudes. Some of them are clearly in it for the money. Some of them are clearly in it for the fun. Some of them are clearly in it because it's the only thing they know, which is kind of sad. And that kind of is what Big Joe is all about. The person that they are hunting after, this man that they've respected, the person who got level 5 at the youngest, and he's like one of the oldest Killjoys still around doing his job.
I found it a bit frustrating that for me the characterization of Fancy Lee was so much stronger than Big Joe, but we were meant to care more about Big Joe than Fancy.
Because we care about Dutch. That's why. I agree. My big critique of this episode is we don't spend enough time with Big Joe. I mean, Big Joe does get stuff. He does have points of view. He does have beliefs. He does give us a reasoning as to why he just got more and more hectic and dangerous and sloppy at being a killjoy.
Yeah, and how he picked up this side hustle of stealing stuff from the company. Because it's like, yeah, this whole system breeds resentment.
And there's no future unless you're the elite. We've seen that again and again and again in the show. The long term only benefits the rich and powerful. Everyone else has to live.
If you're outside of the 9, suck it.
You have to live paycheck by paycheck, job by job, day by day. There is no way of knowing that you can have comfort and security. Big Joe, he's a killjoy. He's the best killjoy. What does that matter? There's no honor.
He gave so
for
many
him,
of them their start.
but there's no love. There's no honor. There's no reward. There's no anything for that. Like he talks about that of what happens to us when we get to this point. What we're not cheered on for what we do.
He's an admiral in the armed forces, and he's guided up all of these people before him, and he's gonna have a cushy retirement because he's put in all of this service. No, the rack doesn't work like that, and the company pretends that it works more like that, but it doesn't.
And it's a career that's a dead end. He reached this at a very young age, and he's been stuck doing it for decades.
Yeah, because you do get the sense that when they give up their rights to any citizenship and blah, 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 there's no going back. Like, resigning from being a killjoy doesn't seem to be an option for them.
Why, with all of that said, does Big Joe still not feel as compelling or as moving of a character for us as the episode may want it to be? Because at the end of it,
it uses
he dies.
the crutch of we care about Dutch. Like, you said it before, but that's a big reason, because they use that as a shortcut in an episode where they're going to extra lengths to add depth to characters. And you also know that he's not going to survive the episode, so it feels like they're like, well, we don't want to spend too much time with him because he's just going to die.
Old dog, old tricks.
I'm tired of old dogs disappointing me today. Just be one of the good ones, please.
I'm trying to be. Now listen to me. For your own good. Get out of here.
I adore getting to know Fancy's ideology and what drives him, what motivates him, and what makes him the outsider killjoy. That he has this philosophy that in any organization, in any big group, we need that one asshole, that one prick, that one person to be the outlier, to help motivate everyone else to do good, but also grounds you back to what the job is truly about, which is being a monster. Like this job is about killing people or about taking people. This is what we do. And so he's not going to pretty it up, but also he is, because he still has the warrant is all mentality. Like he is embodying that to its logical yet morally despicable end.
Yeah.
And what do you feel about that? What does that make you think about the job itself, but also how R3 approach it? Like, are they naively optimistic in the way that they go through the job, or are they showing us the way that it could be done or should be done?
I think they're outsiders to the quad, where I don't know if Fancy is.
Mm-hmm.
And they see more opportunity and flexibility in ways that the insiders don't. Yeah, we said when we were watching it, it's the Kelso effect. that it unifies people to have somebody to hate.
Yeah, Dr. Kelso from Scrubs, that's what he had to become. But do you like that as a thing in general? Like, do you actually agree with that? Do you think that's how things should work? Or
I don't think it should work that way, but I think it can work that way. That often the best organizations have somebody that everybody is willing to rally behind, and they feel like that person will rally behind everybody else in that organization.
then there's someone to rally against.
Yeah, and then there's the opposite, which is that everybody has somebody to rally against.
I think
either
it makes
from inside or outside.
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense in this setting and in this context because this job is competitive. It is dog eat dog. And Fancy is a harsh reminder that that's the case and that if he doesn't do it, somebody else will. It's an inevitability. He just isn't dancing around the issue at hand here, which is I've got a gun and I've got to shoot someone with it. I've got darts, I've got tech, whatever it is. I'm going to do the job. You guys do the job too. You may crack jokes and you may fool yourselves into thinking that you're doing a positive thing or that you are above the negative traits of this career. But let's be real. We've seen these characters murder people. What is different about Fancy Lee shooting Big Joe in the head because that's the logical endpoint of the job to when Davin did it in the first episode?
Yeah.
And it's because they all knew Big Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's different, is it? Like, that's what Fancy Lee would probably argue. If given the information, he would probably argue that, oh, why is it any different? Oh, because we knew Big Joe?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was still a job, and it was more merciful.
The warrant.
Yeah.
And Big Joe was asking for Dutch to do it, and she wouldn't. And that makes a lot of sense with what we know of her and what we've seen of her. And it makes sense for Fancy to do it, and it is more impactful because we've spent this time with him in this episode.
And is it mercy? Is it more merciful, his approach to doing it, or not? To put them down?
I think in this case, yes, because it would be a fucking miserable existence walking around with a target on your back after spending years or potentially decades, right? Being the person who's on the other side of that gun.
But I
also really agree with is it Torrin?
Yeah, Turin. Yeah.
Turin, that it is more merciful than sending him to prison.
Yes. There's some beautiful imagery and direction in this episode. Stuff that really stood out to me was the overexposure, the white balance, the way that things were blown out, but to a degree where it helped emphasize a point. I bring this up because after Fancy shoots Big Joe in the head, he goes back to his position in the bar where he's sitting facing away.
Where he started.
And it's a very almost statuesque type pose that he sits there. And he becomes just a silhouette, almost, because of how blown out the lighting is. And it, to me, stuff like that, or when he first got onto Lucy and he emerges and it looks like he's emerged from the literal ether. There's all of this smoke, looks like smoky light around him and he just emerges. It kind of gives him, in this episode, an almost surreal type quality in which he's not a person almost. It's almost like Fancy Lee is a representation of said things. Like, he killed Big Joe, and then he returns to his state of being, which is waiting for the next one. Because that's what it comes across as. It's like, he did the thing, he said his piece on it, and then he walks back over. Obviously, vitriol and hatred from everyone else, but he goes back, sits there, and he accepts his role as the designated arsehole, and he waits for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that is not said aloud. It's said to me or communicated to me through the visual language. And we bring up the directors, we bring up the writers of the episodes because I think it's important to do so. But how have these elements started to change or improve during the series? And I think the visual storytelling on things like that have drastically improved episode to episode. Because something I haven't mentioned on the podcast or our coverage so far is one of my biggest critiques of Killjoys that I was worried about going back in was I thought it was an ugly show.
Oh.
The filtering, the exposure, the white balance, the shaky cam, the close-ups. I always just thought, man, I wish Killjoys just didn't look like that. I just thought it was an ugly show. Ugly. And I was worried that was going to be a big sticking point. But I'm really liking seeing it again. Those visuals and how they have more meaning than hiding the budget of the show, which is what I always assumed. It's like, oh, they're just hiding the budgetary constraints of the show. But things like this give a little bit more merit to the stylization.
It has more of a purpose than just covering the budget. Now, I have something that I want to bring up. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. Said one thing in the reaction. Now I'm not too certain on how I feel about it. We've discussed where the technology is at in the world of Killjoys, what they have, what they don't have, who has access to it, blah, 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 blah. But in this episode, we are introduced to a new bit of tech that's meant to be advanced, which is a Neuralink. So Dutch is connected to Klein via this Neuralink. And
she can see him in her head. Mm-hmm. She can't see. It doesn't go.
And he can see everything that's going on with her, but
it doesn't go the other way.
And it kind of works for me and kind of doesn't, because it feels like it's a gimmick for having him there without having him there.
Yes.
Because it makes sense that, they would need a back and forth. And having him there physically is more interesting than talking over comms.
Mm-hmm. I buy it in the sense that he is the one that has it. He is a character shrouded in mystery. He is a character that, in this episode, wants her to get an even more advanced piece of technology. So it lines up. Even at the start of the episode, he has this elaborate way of killing a whole bunch of people, and she has to get the job done or else it's endgame.
How the hell do you know about that missing ship?
All the company and most of the rack would kill to know what I know is on that ship. Knowing things is how I keep us safe, Yella.
The actor of Klein, Rob Stewart, he's very good as this. I don't even know how to articulate the characterization. He's dignified and yet he's monstrous. He's classy and yet he feels like a brute. He's ethereal. There's like an ethereal quality to Klein. We haven't really talked about this much on the pod. We had a bit of a discussion about it in our reaction, but there's so many times in this series where he shows up where you almost question if he's physically there at all or if he is this figment.
Yeah. It's really disconcerting when she stabs him and he's just like, well, okay.
Barely bleeds and barely reacts. He's like, okay, you did that, huh?
Yeah, so
Okay.
you do really believe it when she's just like, I've got to kill him somehow.
And Klein gets very emotional in this episode. He's been very restrained in the other ones.
You really do believe it when he's just like, I get my orders from somewhere. It's gonna fuck shit up if you don't do what I say. Like, he's scared of what's gonna happen.
And what's he chasing after in this episode? It's a super weapon, of course.
The genetic bomb that I mentioned earlier, I believe.
It is a genetic bomb. It's a weapon that the company has made. And he really needs it. He really needs it. And there's a panicked quality in the performance, which Dutch notes as well, that there's a frenzy, that there's a mania to Klein, which she hasn't seen before. And then by the end, she hasn't seen that type of anger and rage and violence from him before either. So she's seeing a side and we're seeing a side of this character that is new. But what is your overall opinions on Klein? We've had brief discussions about him, but they're only brief because he's only shown up in small moments. But this is the episode where he's here. He does a lot, he says a lot, and he gives a lot.
Yeah, he's a fucking piece of shit. And I kind of love it. Because he knows what he is, but he believes that he's better than what he is. I feel like my inkling is that the company is in charge of the quad, but then there's like, it's evil super corporations the whole way down. Like, we've got the rack, we've got the company, and then there's something that's more system-wide.
The Nine, we got them as well.
And that Klein is a part of that bigger thing.
What is he? Because, as you said, he gets stabbed a whole lot and barely reacts. What do you think's going on with that? Because he's physically there for that. That isn't a Neuralink shenanigans. He comes up and he chokes her. That's another thing too, is really disturbing stuff that she is more thrown off by the fact that he physically assaulted her than he got stabbed a million times and wasn't hurt or barely injured. She's more thrown off by the fact that he grabbed her by the throat than her actually trying to kill him and he doesn't die.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just like, oh, no, he's usually in control. Something's got him scared, and that unsettles her more. And that really leads the audience to how they need to think about things as well. It shifts perspectives. I'm surprised that we are getting so much with him this season, because my thoughts initially were that this was going to be more of a series-long thing. But they're diving into it and they're more like, now we're on the hunt for him at the end of this episode.
One of the things that I want to praise about the writing, and we talked about this in our initial reaction, which people can find on our Patreon and on YouTube, is Johnny knows who Klein is. Something that we weren't sure of
so
previously.
So much. It makes it so much more interesting to me that she didn't hide who Klein was, just that he was back. And that means that it doesn't shake the foundation of their relationship the way that I was anticipating that it would. And it makes it a cleaner transition to them working together against Klein as well.
He knows what Klein is. That's all that matters. And he responds appropriately. Okay, we've got to run, we've got to do this. But then Davin is the outsider. He doesn't know a bunch of this stuff, but he knows that that's not going to solve anything. We should probably do something about it. And then Dutch
But also,
signs off and says, you know what,
he-
it's enough about defense. It's time to get offensive. It's time
Davin
to
ran
take
away
it."
from his problems.
Yes,
And
that's
it's
what
not
Davin's...
working out.
Yeah, exactly. It's not working out. He knows that running away doesn't benefit you.
Mm-hmm.
And Dutch, we've talked about
Even
this,
if you're
hasn't...
running towards something.
Yes. Dutch has had a hard time determining the difference between the two things. I thought as well that Hannah John-Kamen gave a really, really touching performance in this episode because we saw Dutch under duress. She's doing stuff that she doesn't want to do. She's having to take orders from people she doesn't want to take orders from.
She's not in control or in charge. And how that makes her uncomfortable, but it's also still familiar.
And at the end, she's rattled by all of the things that she's gone through, that Big Joe had to die, that she got physically assaulted by her former mentor, Klein, and we see her withdrawn but also teary-eyed, and we haven't seen that from Dutch, really. We've seen her be emotional.
Shaken in
but
a way that we haven't seen her.
the other times I've seen her be shaken emotionally, it's more about her doubling down on being flippant. Like with the Vessel episode where she's seeing these women that are reminding her of her own past, and instead of getting, teary-eyed about it, she just doubles down on like, oh, this is stupid. Ugh, who cares about this? But this episode, we got to see the more emotional and vulnerable side of Dutch. And I don't think it compromised her character. I think it just strengthens her and makes us understand her more.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need?
I need this to stop. Which means I need your help. It'll make you both even bigger targets than you already are right now.
I still owe you 2 lives, remember?
What would you rate this episode on our system of Yum being bad and Yum Yum being good?
I don't think I've said really any negatives about this episode. It was a really solid episode. It wasn't one that I fucking loved because of what it is or what it does, but I love the way that it does it. And it's a yum yum from me.
Yum yum.
This episode was moving. This episode spent its time well. It let the actors play, had a good story, and it got me excited to watch the next one. So I give this a yum yum.
Yum yum.
Do you want to know what the next episode is called?
I do.
Season 1, episode 7 of Killjoys is Kiss Kiss, Bye Bye. We ended this with them saying we're going to go after Klein and fuck shit up.
Yeah, that
We know
feels
that
like
there
a finale name, though. That feels like a finale. But it's not. It's not.
We still have other things. The doctor's
So-
in jail.
Yeah, what's coming to an end?
Yes. So we still have 3 episodes left. Kiss Kiss, Bye Bye. Any thoughts on what could be happening?
Nope. I'm excited to find out, though. I don't want to spend too much time hypothesizing because it's just I want to be surprised and hopefully enjoy what the episode has to offer. It's got me very intrigued.
Well, thank you all so much for listening out there, Yumlings. Rachel?
Wait, I have a question for you. Do
Yeah.
you remember what happens in the next episode?
No.
Okay.
No, I know one thing about the next episode, but it's too important to say until we
of
watch
course.
it.
Of course.
It's not
You
even
are
about the episode, it's about the behind the scenes of the episode.
Ah, okay.
So that is something I do know, because I'm just perusing stuff I'm like, oh, that's going to be important to note down.
Okay,
It's also one of the more funny titles that we've had thus far.
I just wanted to get that in there. Thank you very much for listening, Yumlings. If you want to check us out on social media, you can do that via searching yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast or using the links provided in the description. We would really appreciate it if you did in fact enjoy this episode and you haven't already given us a positive review on your podcatcher of choice. It does help out and we always appreciate it, even though we aren't one of the podcasts that reads out positive reviews.
Share us around, follow us, and support us on Patreon. We release our content early and we have our full unedited reactions to watching Killjoys, as well as a community Discord where you can talk to other people who are fans of the podcast and fans of the shows that we are watching. It'd be very much appreciated if you could head on over to Patreon and support Yum Yum Podcast. There's so much content over there. There's a whole huge back catalog of other things. We talk about movies. We talk about other TV shows. It's a grand old time. But we have to leave because I get the sense, Rachel, that Fancy Lee... Why are you rolling your eyes at that? Me saying Fancy Lee. It's a great name, great character. Great character. But I get a sense that Fancy Lee's got one of his high-tech gadgets just waiting to fly at us. Do you like that he has flying gadgets? That's like the second time we've had like him shooting gadgets at his targets. Actually third, because here's the thing that the bloodhound that tracks, and then he had his like little flying daggers in this episode. And last time we saw him, he had like darts and stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, just call it off. And have my tits handed to me by my boss? I don't think so.